Hello and welcome to another episode of the Petey Performance Podcast. Today's episode of the podcast is a conversation with Niamh Kelly of the Adelaide Crows and formerly of Mayo Football. So we had a big chat about their season last year, her off-season and her hopes for next season in 2024. We also talked about how she reflects on her time with Mayo and what she would do differently this time around. And we talked a lot about life in Australia and her newfound confidence that she's got in the last year after getting a position on the Australian Team of the Year. So, great episode for you guys today. Hopefully you all enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, please remember to like it, share it and send it. Niamh, welcome to the PD Performance Podcast. Great to have you on. We're just chatting there about off-season plans and getting your Irish fix. How long did you go home for and did you enjoy it?
Cheers, and thanks for having me on, Pete. So I went home for about a month. It was really nice to get home, refresh after the season and see everyone at home and stuff like that again. And there's no better time than being at home for Christmas. So, it was really nice. And just came back out, had a week in Adelaide before moving to Sydney for a bit. And myself and Dara, my boyfriend, were up here for 2 months. So go back down to Adelaide then at the end of March to get back into group training. So that'll be fun.
And while Dara's working, as you said, what have you been up to in Sydney? Are you enjoying holiday lifestyle or is it very much the life of a professional athlete and you're still doing a little bit of training on the side?
Yeah, I've actually never really been up to Sydney before, so it's been really nice to explore, and a good few of my friends and stuff are up here as well. But we've actually just moved into a house in Randwick where the guy that owns the house, actually, he's Johnny. He's a strength and conditioning coach, so I'm flat out training in his gym. He's got the garage or the gym kitted out there in the garage, so it's actually great to have that, and just meet up with the girls and stuff like that as well, and full on just kind of do my own training here as well that Adelaide have given me. So it's really nice to have the break, I suppose, and get the Irish fix, but really looking forward to getting back into the group training too.
And then last night you were at an NBL game, were you? Basketball, and you were with Julie in Paris, and we were just speaking earlier, you're going for a kick with the girls at the weekend. It seems like there's a decent little Irish community of AFLW players together out here. Do you ever get the chance to train together in the off season, or is it something that maybe is going to be a bit novel for you?
I just met Julie and Paris there last week, actually. Lovely girls, and really young girls, and just they're like sponges. They're really enjoying like their first year and everything like that. So we went to the basketball game together then yesterday, and I'll meet them at the weekend. But I suppose we never really get a chance to train with, I suppose, other Irish in the off season unless you're, I suppose, near them and you might go out for a kick with them. But I suppose now that I'm up in Sydney, and we said we'd link up and have a few kicks together. So that'll be good. Basketball game was unreal last night. It was cool to see it and experience it.
You're making the most of Sydney anyway. You're seeing as many sports as you can. I'm sure you'll get to a rugby league game yet as well, and maybe even an AFL game if you're going to be here for the next few weeks. To chat just briefly on Julie in Paris, you said they're like sponges. What were they picking your brain about? Because we did say off here that yourself and Grace came out here together, obviously, and then you went your separate ways. Like, were they asking you or quizzing you on that at all, or do they just believe that they're going to be together out here till the end, I suppose?
So myself and Grace came out at the end of 2019. So we came out together, similar to Paris and Julie. So I don't know, I was looking at them and they're very much like what we were like when we first came out. Really like, and it's still amazing. I suppose you have to pinch yourself with how grateful we are to be in a professional environment. But they're just loving the professional setup, getting to grips with the game, trying to get out, practicing as much as they can, and like they're in the club nearly every day as well. So I suppose that's nearly I suppose every Irish that come out, because it's so new to them, so foreign to them, to play a professional sport, to have all the resources and facilities at your doorstep. It's class. But I think we really thrive off that. But just chatting to them, it was just, they really reminded, I suppose, me of myself and Grace when we first started. And when we played the Swans actually in the finals this year, myself and Paris were kind of marking each other a bit, or tagging each other. So I was on the wing and Paris was there, so we were having a bit of banter. So I suppose she was picking, like, just asking loads of questions about the wing and stuff like that, which is cool. But they're doing really well. Like, only one season under their belt and they're flying and they're really eager to learn. So no doubt they'll keep on progressing.
When you reflect back on yourself in 2019 towards the athlete you are now in the AFLW, is your understanding of the game completely different to what it was back then? Like, and would you have, maybe you did have some mentor next to you, and were you grateful to have them there to bounce things off? Maybe Cora, I suppose, had been here already. And
Yeah.
well, she took to the game like a duck to water, I suppose.
Yes, she did. So yeah, we moved out at the end of 2019. So I suppose a few of the male ones that went ahead of us were Sarah and Cora. So we kind of seen how well they got on, how well they adapted to the sport, and when the opportunity came, like, we jumped at it. So it was really nice, I suppose, having Grace there with me, and we were both learning at the same time. So we were both clueless, to be honest. Like, we hadn't really heard of AFLW until Cora and Sarah went out, really. So we'd watched, the odd game. But it was great to have, I suppose, Grace to practice skills with constantly. There was two people with West Coast, Adam Selwood and Luke Dwyer, the coach and manager. They were on to us all the time. They were doing one-on-one skills with us all of the time as well. So they knew we were eager to learn. And that helped us so much, I suppose, coming across, sending us cross vision. But like, you're practicing at home before you move out and you think you're doing the right things, and like, you are way off the mark. So it wasn't until we actually got out there, got stuck into training, made mistakes, learned from them, and just practiced all the time. And that's where you learn and you get better and improve. But yeah, it was definitely a learning curve. And when I look back and reflect back to 2019, I suppose you don't really realise how much you're kind of learning, and things come instinctive over time. But it's been a really cool journey, and I suppose the move over to the Crows as well has been another step up, and to be around some of them athletes who have experienced, I suppose, winning grand finals and everything, it's incredible, and something I definitely want to experience.
Lots of skills, steep learning curve. Do you feel comfortable yet?
I think it's always, it's not going to come 100% natural like Gaelic is. And there's definitely a lot more thought that I'd have to put into it, more so than Gaelic. But I think just through practice and repetition and, watching vision, going through the skills, going through all the structures, it's definitely coming a lot easier now than it did at the start. And then when you have like the likes of some of the coaches and the girls to learn from, and just be picking their brain, and like, they think in such a different way to you. And just talking about the different like structures and the terminology of the game, you do get used to it. I know when we first moved out, like, the terminology alone was so different. So even getting used to the lingo and all that was a big, learning curve. So yeah, it's definitely a bit different, but I think every day is a learning day, and you just keep learning.
So that's very hard to do, I suppose, when you're away from the game in the off season, is the terminology, the structures, watching games, technical patterns, or technical. You can work on technical skills, but tactical skills are harder to work on. Obviously, you had a great year last year. Off season comes around, and most athletes in the off season have real high hopes, as saying, okay, I've been neglecting this aspect of my game for so long, I want to work on something.
Yeah.
Has there been a conscious focus for you over the off season on something that you wanted to work on, and are you open to sharing what it is and what you've done to try to work on it?
Yeah, definitely. There's always something to work on, and I think, it could change from week to week, but something I'd like to work on is, I suppose, competing in the air. Something I suppose you don't do with Gaelic is like just that pushing off the ball, so getting my body work right.
Depends who you are.
Yeah, that is true. I know I've been known to be a bit rough back in Gaelic, so actually, yeah, probably shouldn't be doing it, but I do. So yeah, the body work, I suppose, and just getting in the right positions to tackle. I suppose you're not used to that shove when you go up to go up for a high ball. So body work is something, and then the tackle technique too. So I think when you're running at speed and you go to tackle someone, you have to be very careful as to how you bring them to ground. So getting that tackle technique. We have a tackling coach, who he's incredible. So as soon as I get back, I'll be in the gym with him, doing extra sessions with him.
When the two of you go home, you and Grace, for Christmas, do you work on body work and tackle tech, or do you just take full break?
A little bit. I do the odd bit with Darragh. A small bit with Grace. Like, we're always practicing skills. She's actually coming up here next weekend for a long weekend, so that'll be nice. But yeah, we'll get out and practice a bit of skills. We'll probably give each other an out shove as well. So no, that'll be really exciting. And obviously missing her, I suppose I was with her for 3 seasons over in West Coast, so you definitely, miss her, I suppose, by your side, or someone to vent to, or someone just to to have that feels like home. So it's been really nice to have Dara out here. So yeah, we definitely do practice a good bit of tackling and stuff. But yeah, we'll get out and have a kick next weekend as well.
You've obviously spent loads of time together and you're obviously very close. Do you think you'd be the athlete that you are now if you didn't have Grace there with you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're both really competitive. And like growing up, we always we're feeding off each other's competitive energy, I suppose, and that makes ourselves better, I guess. But like it was just so good having her to come out with that first year, someone just to practice with. So I don't know if I'd be the athlete if I didn't have Grace. So thankful for her, I suppose, in that way. But yeah, hopefully we get playing against each other this year and we can get up against each other and see how that goes. She's at St Kilda, so yeah, I suppose there's only 11 games in the season. There's 18 teams, so hopefully, like, it just depends who you get playing against. But yeah, hopefully the fixtures line out that we do get playing against each other.
How strange is it when you come up against either Grace or one of your former Mayo teammates out here?
Yeah.
Like, are you very much kind of... There's a famous video of Gary Neville and Phil Neville, captain for Manchester United and Everton, in the tunnel before they played each other.
Mm-hmm.
The two lads, a year between them maybe, they don't even look at each other. Like, is it very much that, or do you go for coffee before the game, or do you just try and forget the face of the person that you're playing against?
Yeah, we actually, like, generally, I suppose if you're travelling to Melbourne or if they're travelling down to Adelaide, if you get in, I suppose, early enough the day before, we might go for a coffee or catch up. Done that with a lot of the girls this year. It's like even Rachel Kearns as well, and met up with Clara and Cara and Niamh McLaughlin as well before the Gold Coast game. And yeah, it is nice to do that because, like, you're over in a foreign country playing a foreign sport that none of us played a couple of years ago or a few years ago, and it is nice to get that, I suppose, touch of home. At the end of the day, you're just playing a sport, I suppose. It's mad you're chasing a ball and trying to score, but it is nice to touch up with them and see how they're getting on with the game. And everyone's story is so different, and yeah, it's like, and all the Irish have gone on so well out here, so it's really great to see, like, I suppose, the pathway that the AFLW have made for so many athletes, but so many Irish that have came out and done so well out here too. So yeah, it definitely is nice to see the Irish. I think, we always obviously embrace after the game, and then when you're lining up against, like, even Paris, like at the end of the season, I didn't know her that well beforehand, but it's just funny having a bit of banter, and even lining up against some of the Mayo girls at home is definitely weird when you're usually on the same team as them. So yeah, it's different, but it's cool.
If you're playing them in a club game at home, there might be a chance of a bit of verbals on the pitch. Is there ever a bit of verbals on the pitch? Is that what you're referring to with banter? And are you one to get involved in that if it's going on, or are you just very much you'll ignore it? You can call anybody out that you want as well.
Might press stop here on the phone. I'm joking. Yeah, so I think when you're playing against people, like, there's a bit of banter. There's always going to be a bit of slagging here and there, but like usually if it's someone I don't know, I don't get involved. Yeah, it's funny. It's just, I don't know. I kind of, sometimes the girls laugh at me, like I don't even see it going on. Sometimes I'm just like looking at the ball or where to be. I think with AFL there's just so much to think about, and so many structures and where to stand and all that kind of stuff. But definitely is a lot more of sledging, as they call it here, than there would be at home. And even like in the crowd as well, like, if you're going for a shot or a set shot, like there's so much sledging from the crowd. So yeah, that's definitely different, but you try and block it out, I suppose.
Was that a hard one to block out in, say, your first couple of seasons? And do you think, like, now you're good at just focusing on task and just the blinkers are on?
Yeah, I don't know. I think when the game is on, I don't even hear the crowd sometimes. There could be, like, I don't know, 10,000 in a game, and I might actually hear them until, like, there's a stoppage in play. So I think I'm okay, but then there's the odd time that you do hear. But yeah, you're just so used to it now, I suppose, at this stage, and you just have to kind of stay in the zone and keep going, I guess.
Last year you picked up you got a spot in the All-Australian Team of the Year, which is obviously massive. And like, you had a stellar year. There was a couple of really good highlights in there as well. Why do you think it came together like that, or was it something that came cumulatively over the years?
Yeah, I think so. I moved to the Crows 2 years ago. So I've had 2 seasons there. And my first season was tough enough because I picked up the shoulder injury and played through the season. Well,
With it, yeah.
Popping out for fun, really.
Nice.
So it came to the end of the season and decided, I needed surgery. So that was last Christmas. And then I think after that, really, I just decided to, not dwell on it too much, but just, set my goals. And I think when I got back, I was just so grateful to be back out on the pitch that I worked so hard to get all the things right, I suppose. And although I couldn't train at the start or do the physicality, I was watching vision and doing skills and putting in the time with the coaches. And I suppose it made me think of things in a different way, I think. I was like, how can I be the best, I suppose, winger for the team? And what are 2 or 3 things that I can focus on? And if I'm doing those 2 or 3 things right, then, I can't dwell on anything else. So it's very much just, being in the present moment, being grateful to be out there on the field. Like, there's so many injuries that are picked up in the AFLW. And, when it's your time to play and you're fit and healthy, it's like, just go hell for leather and go for it. But we had amazing support around us, amazing coaches. And then, the experience of the girls around me, just learning from them and asking them questions and asking them what it was like to be in a grand final, to win a grand final. I think you just thrive off their excitement when they talk about that. And then, so I suppose, I think it was just I actually believe it was just being injured in the first year and then coming back just so excited to be back out there again and be around everyone. And you kind of learn how your teammates play as well. I suppose in my second year with the Crows, I knew more about my teammates, knew how Niamh, who's a left footer, to pass to her on her left so she can swing around. Some of the girls are faster, kicking into space for them, and you learn more about the team that way. So just, I suppose, gelling with the girls as well. And it was just a really fun season. I don't think we lost to North Melbourne in the prelim, and that was on the Sunday, and then we flew back to Adelaide that night, and I don't think I really thought about it. We flew back to Melbourne again then for the awards the next day, and I don't think it really sunk in because I was so, I suppose, upset about the result the night before. So I'm very grateful for the award, but hopefully we go a step further and get to the grand final next year.
It's a nice milestone all the same, even though it's an individual one, and you've touched on there mostly your teammates, even when I've asked you about what did you do differently. But a lot of what you've just said is about staying in the present, albeit picking up little intricate details about your teammates and about the sport throughout your previous season. But staying in the present is a hard thing to do. So how do you improve on that this season, if you even can? Or do you just try and do exactly what you did last season?
Yeah, I think, things change all the time. So being able to adapt is really important. We'll have 4 or 5 new girls come in. We'll have an Irish girl join us, Amy Boyle-Carr from Donegal. And I'm just really excited to see what they can bring. And they'll bring a new lease of life to the group. But it's also having that, the mix of the experienced and the new players come in. I think to build on everything that was done from last year, not to change too much, because when something's working, you don't want to change it too much. But obviously we need to grow on that and get better as well, to get past the next final hurdle, I guess. But I think for me, it's just being real present. Sometimes if there's something in my head, I tend to dwell on it in the past maybe. So it's just it's over, next ball. Just keep looking to the present moment, and then sometimes it might be tapping your teammate on the shoulder to get you back into the present moment, just something physically outside of you. So I think that's just something that works for me. It's just something outside of me and to get me out of my head. And it could be just shouting to one of the girls to, I don't know, run and pick up that player, or just to keep going.
Is that a new thing? Is that something you added last year to your game, or is it something you've always done?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, last year in the off season, I done a course on all around mindset, really, psychology, around sport, and I honestly think that helped me so much with, I suppose, bouncing back after the injury, but just playing in the present moment. And I've probably visualised a lot as well before games.
It was an NLP course, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah.
Did Sarah tell you to do it?
No, actually, but she did do an NLP course. Yeah, and Sarah would be the woman to chat about this, because you can have very interesting conversations with Sarah. She'll tell you all about it. But it made me think in a different way, I guess, and the importance of being in the present moment, of visualization, of I suppose we're Irish as well, so we always tend to dwell on our negatives and, you know, the things that go wrong in games. And you know, it's important to know what your 2 or 3 strengths are as well and what you bring to the team, because everyone has their strengths and that's what makes the team succeed, I guess. So always coming back to that and just believing in the work that you've done as well. And yeah, I think that mindset.
What are your 2 or 3 strengths?
We start with the things that need work on. Yeah, I suppose speed and athleticism, I guess. And I think a lot of Irish bring that to the game, and that's why a lot of the AFLW teams, what they look for in the Irish. So I suppose, yeah, that'd be probably my strengths with the Crows. And then, yeah, the girls would probably, you know, have the footy brain as well. So I like to pick their brain and, yeah, soak up the knowledge that they have.
The confidence comes from the preparation, as you said there as well. And that course was something different that you added to your toolbox, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else that you did differently in terms of preparation last year? Because it's a pretty short season.
Yeah.
So, like, the changes you can make game to game are pretty minimal. It goes like that. So, was there anything you changed last year as opposed to the year before? Other than your shoulder not popping out every 10 minutes.
That definitely helped. I think just because I knew the girls a bit more as well, knew the environment, knew the staff, knew them that bit more, I was more comfortable in the group, I guess. And Yvonne Bonner was out last year as well, the other Irish girl. She's a phenomenal athlete. Like, she went home, she played with the Giants for 2 years. She went home during COVID, had Breach, her child, and came back and got picked up by the Crows. And she could keep going for another 10 years. Like, she's not slowing down. But she did retire. And yeah, she was incredible. And it was great to have her out there as well. But yeah, nothing really that I changed too much, to be honest, other than staying in the present moment, staying connected with the girls. And yeah, I do reckon probably the mindset course helped me a little bit as well, in terms of my performance on and off the field. And yeah.
So if you were to give advice to the younger generation of players coming over now, outside of maybe suggesting going and working on their sports psychology and their mindset, would you tell them, as frustrating as it might be for them, to just give it time and it will happen as long as you do your best to stay in the present moment, work on your preparation so that you're confident stepping on the field, and then kind of just trust yourself to do it?
Yeah, I think like we're nearly afraid to make mistakes, and I think you have to be vulnerable to, don't be afraid to make the mistakes, and that's where you'll actually learn the most. And I know, as cliche as that sounds, like, it actually is. You need to be thrown into it and then just mess up, and then you're like, okay, now I get it. And or else watch vision and you'll learn that way as well. But yeah, I would just say to them, keep at it, keep persistent, keep working hard, and like, just keep believing in yourself, because yeah, the time will come where, you know, you'll have your chance, and just take it. Yeah.
It seems like you've benefited from being very inquisitive though as well. Like, it sounds like you ask a lot of questions. Is that something you'd suggest they do immediately when they arrive?
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you're coming into a foreign sport. Oh, I'd say I had everyone's head wrecked. I asked so many questions, and Grace was the same when we were in West Coast. But even then, you come across to the Crows and you think it's going to be similar enough. It's completely different, because you have to buy into their team structures. You have to buy into the completely different, like, values, everything. So I asked so much questions. And then even last year, like, I couldn't do just say the tackling or the physicality training after the shoulder. So I was in doing vision with our skills coach, and I had so many questions. And but they love it. And like, you know, it's just so good to have people there 24/7. You can just have access to all the resources, all the staff. They're there to make you better. But yeah, you have to ask questions, and that's
Is that different to home?
It is. Like, I think, you know, the professionalism is there at home. Like, the girls work so hard and they train professionally, and like, they have the right mindset, and they're like, I actually reckon like Irish athletes are the most resilient. Like, you know, you keep going through anything. But it's not professional, and the resources just aren't there. Maybe in time it will get more, like, it is getting more and more professional, but it's just, it's an amateur sport. So I think it's just harder when you have, I suppose, your job, 9-to-5 job, or I was teaching back at home when I was in Dublin, travelling 3 hours down to Mayo, and you're racing out onto a pitch, and then you just don't have the same level or access to
detail,
facilities, I suppose, that you would.
But also sometimes at home, especially in the GAA, you're just expected to know the game plan. And if you ask a question at times to certain coaches, they can be kind of like, I wouldn't say demeaning, but they can be a little bit frustrated that you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Whereas it sounds like out here, when you ask a question, maybe because you're new to the sport, they're really keen to give you the answer because they know that there's no expectation that you should know, because sure, how would you know?
Yeah.
You didn't know anything until 2019, as you said.
That's so true. It's like, you're really afraid to ask a question at home sometimes. Yeah. And then here it's like, it's a completely different kind of culture or something. And they want you to ask questions because they know you're eager then to learn. So,
is that the same across the board for all of the athletes, or do you think that's a bit of a cheat code for the Irish athletes that come out?
I definitely do think the Irish, I don't know, I think they just thrive of the professional environment because we don't have it at home. So I think we're very eager to learn and we want to know every detail, and it's a new sport. So there's always questions to ask. Like, I'm still asking so many questions now. And it'll probably still be like that for the next few years. But definitely, I'd say it's an Irish thing. We always want to know every detail and want to be better.
We want to know everything,
yeah,
is what you're saying. Too nosy for our own good, aren't we? So, a great year last year. Like, you can tell that when you're talking about AFLW, you get really excited. Like, you've got into that team of the year last year. You got to the preliminary final. Obviously, you're potentially 1 to 2 steps away from winning a grand final. Is that what really is driving you, do you think, to want to go and get that medal? Or is it just the joy that you get from trying to master a sport that you only picked up 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think at the start it was definitely mastering a sport that I didn't know anything about. Now that I'm with the Crows and knowing that we've reached the prelim twice in a row, like, I can't wait. Like, I'd love to, obviously get our hands on a Premiership Cup. That's obviously the goal that's driving me at the moment. But and then I think when you just hear the girls talking about it, like, there's a few of the girls that have won 3 premierships with the Crows, and the way they talk about each and every one of them, it's like the best thing in the world. Like, you can just see the hunger they want to get back there again, and that's class. I'd love to be able to experience that.
You've said there a number of times that they talk openly about winning premierships, and maybe it's because they've been there before, so like they can have that confidence because they have the evidence that they're good enough to win it. Was that something that consciously you spoke about as a group over the last 2 years? And does that differ to home in that, like, maybe with Mayo you don't always talk about winning All Irelands, even though during the 2000s, like, there's no stronger outfit really, like?
Yeah, I think we don't really talk about the end goal much in season, to be honest. It's only small conversations I'd have with the girls outside of the club kind of thing. We're very much like, just keep the head down and work hard, which is similar enough to home actually in that way. But it's just to be a lot of meetings and chatting about, different things, which is obviously different to home. But we wouldn't really openly speak about it in the group. I think leading up to it, we reached the prelim, there was obviously chat about it then when we got to that, like, because that was the next step if we won the prelim. But it's very much just kind of take each game as it comes and then kind of keep building on those little wins. And we always aim for, if there was 10 games, to win 6 of them. And if you win 6, you generally make finals, 6 to 7. So it's just kind of ticking them off as they come. And then when you reach the final stage, it's hoping to win and get through then to the next stage.
Take each game as they come.
I know, that's pure Irish.
Yeah, I know. But look, sometimes it's appropriate. Although I'm just interested because I've had a couple of conversations over the last couple of years, and I've noticed that athletes in different counties have different language that they use around what their goals are, what they want to achieve, and the likelihood that they will do so. And I just wanted to pick your brain on it. So you've done that NLP course, and you talk about, obviously, in your smaller groups going and winning a premiership, and you're pretty likely to get there. Like, a kick of the game in it last year in the preliminary final, like, you're there or thereabouts. But I've been speaking to athletes at home in different counties, and I can say confidently, because it's happened, last year in the middle of the season, I was speaking to Keane Murphy from Thomas Davis, and we were having a conversation about holidays or something. And just a normal conversation, probably about April, I'd say. Dublin not going great. They're in Division 2, not that much hope of them. And just a throwaway comment from him, he said, "Oh, I'll probably go on a holiday this week after we win the All-Ireland." And I was like, all right, okay, I like the confidence. And then I was speaking with GAA athletes in a couple of other counties, and one was talking about the All-Ireland series as well, in a heavily fancied outfit to go far as well. And they were speaking about if they got knocked out in the quarter-final, they'd go on holidays for this amount of time. If they got knocked out in the semi-final, they'd go out or on holidays for this amount of time. And if they got to the final, they'd take this amount of time off. And another one who was very recently talking about the league and saying, oh, well, look, hopefully we can win a game and then we won't get relegated in a different county. And it just got me thinking, if I was to say to any of those Dublin players, or broach that conversation as in, oh, if you get knocked out in the quarterfinal, you can take this amount of time off, they'd probably tell me to go F myself. Do you think there's a bit of self-fulfilling prophecy in that, in the way that you talk about yourself as a group and what you believe of yourself and it actually happening?
Yeah, 100%. I think, it is kind of like that. You set goals, I suppose, for the start of the year and, you know, what do you want to achieve as a group? But the more you tell yourself you can't do something, well, the more chance and likelihood that that's going to happen. So I think you have to train your mind to be like, you know, train your mind first and train your body, I guess, but train your mind to think that you can achieve it. And when you completely focus on something and dial in on something, you can achieve anything really. But you need everyone on the same hymn sheet. So it's making sure you get, you know, everyone's like, you've got different personalities on the team, but to get everyone to gel together. And I think, like, you look at Dublin, who are such a successful team, but if you look from the outside in, they look like a great team and they look like they have a great culture. Looks like they get on so well and they gel well together. But I can guarantee you they all believe that they can win. So, like, it's, you know, I think it's that belief. You really need to believe that you can win as a group and be successful, yeah.
So then, the last time you played with Mayo, I think, was 2021. If you, Grace, Sarah and Rachel were to go home and play a season, would you do anything differently now than what you did in the past playing for Mayo?
Yeah, I reckon we probably, you know, always felt we could get there, but I don't know if we could fully believe that we could, you know, that kind of way. So, it'd be class to go back and just get all the Mayo girls back. It's just
Four-hour retirement.
Yeah, get her back out, and Aileen Gilroy as well. But yeah, it's just, I suppose now with the 12-month contracts rolling around, it's getting much harder to be able to do the both. But yeah, again, comes down to that, like, that mindset has a huge part to play in it, and you really have to believe that you can win it to get there. But yeah.
So would you change anything if you went back now and you did have the opportunity to play for Mayo that you didn't do last time around? Is it just openly talking about going and doing it rather than saying, oh, we can do it?
Yeah, I think you just have to get the girls together and create that, you know, set our goals as a group, get the team together, get us all making sure that we're all chasing the same thing, and really believe in that as well. So I think there is a great culture there with the Mayo ladies at the moment. And like a lot of young girls that have come through as well are doing so well. But if I was to go back, I would probably just, you know, sit down with everyone. I think they're so good here at, like, building things from the ground up. And because it's professional, they have the staff and they have the time to do that. But it's, you know, making sure that you have everyone working towards the same goal, I guess, and really, like everyone truly believes that, I guess.
Is there any element of you that looks at, like, Jennifer with a bit of envy?
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I know you'd be delighted for her, but when you're watching that, are you almost a little bit jealous that she gets to win 2 premierships, they said, in a year?
That was unbelievable. For her to do what she did, I think she came out 2 weeks before the season started, and after coming off the back of winning All Ireland with Dublin, and then I remember watching it in the middle of the night. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning here or something, and she had a great game. And then 2 weeks later, she was out here training with Brisbane, and it was new to her first year. And then to win a grand, like make it into the team then, and win a grand final was, it's class. And, full credit to her. She worked so hard, and to have, that's your dream, like to win an All-Ireland final with your county and to win a grand final with your club out here is class. So no, that's unbelievable. And obviously that's something I'd love to achieve with Mayo. But I think, for me, I think I'd have to full-heartedly, invest in one and give it all. And I suppose like you can't really do that at the moment. I think you could probably, like some girls do it where, and I think the Mackins are doing it at the moment, where they're going home and playing with their county and then they're coming out late, and that arrangement made with their clubs. But yeah, I've committed to being out here. So yeah, I can't wait to get back to the girls now and get training with them.
That would probably be quite difficult to do, because you're like, I know the sports are similar, but you're adapting to one sport and one style of language and one style of play, and then you come out and you're playing a totally different sport the rest of the year. Like, it's like being a dual player but on steroids. Like, it's two completely different rule sets. Like, how do you even navigate that? Like, as an athlete, obviously what Jennifer did was, it might never be done again, like, and she could have just then and there retired if she wanted to have been happy with
happy
it.
on that.
But knowing the two groups that she's involved in, she's probably not going to be happy with that. They're probably going for it again. So like,
yeah, I think you taste that and you want more then as well. So no doubt she'll be back even like hungrier again this year. And I think, like, when you've been there before, it's really like an expectation to get back there again. See, I'm not sure what her story is with Dublin this year, but I'm sure she'll have a great year again with Brisbane.
Do you find it different out here in terms of, obviously with the draft, like it's potentially a little bit more open in terms of every group probably has that belief that they can go and win it? Is that different to back home? You've had multiple different winners over the last, say, 5 years, and even if you perform poorly, you get best pick then the next time around. Like, so it's a little bit more of an even playing field.
Yeah, it is. It's actually getting a lot more even now. Like, even the 4 new expansion teams they've been in the competition 2 years now, but for the Swans to get to the finals last year was incredible, and it just shows like their program's obviously incredible and they're doing something right. But like, it's definitely becoming more even now, and like you can't pick the top few teams anymore. Anyone could be in the finals. So, and like a lot of the girls, like even St Kilda, like Grace, they were just knocked out by point difference this year of getting through to the final. So there's a lot of teams there that are knocking at the door, and they're only going to get better. So it actually is great for the game that the game is always growing, and it's becoming a lot more even. Yeah.
So there's a couple of girls that have gone back, obviously, as you said, the Mackins, and then Jennifer last year playing the end of her season and coming out. Do you think there is a future in which the GAA or the LGFA and you don't know what to say these days because it's closer to being amalgamation, but it and the AFLW can coexist kind of and complement each other? Because I know that there were some very strong opinions with so many strong Gaelic footballers coming out initially believing that the AFLW may have been detracting from the sport at home, even though, like, how can you harbour any ill will towards the girls coming out? Like, as you just said, you're living as a professional athlete.
Yeah.
At home, you're having to do a teaching job and then be afraid of asking a question around the game plan because you've been doing lesson plans all week, so you haven't had a chance to look a huddle.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I think, like, it obviously would be the best of both worlds if that could happen. But now with these new contracts that are 12 months, it nearly is. It's a full-time job, like, really, and it's all year round. So like, a lot of girls are doing like little bits of work or part-time work and stuff, but just say come March now, a lot of clubs will be fully back training or into March, and even like a lot of the teams are already back now as well. So it's really hard to do. I don't know if there'll ever be an agreement. I think I can just see the AFLW keep on growing, and we'll probably have more games in years to come as well. So I'd love to see it happen, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, like, it's really hard to know. And it is great, as you touched on there, like, you don't know what to call it between LGFA, GAA. Like, that'll be a huge step for the GAA when we have the three of them working together. And they'll be hopefully is it 2027? I think they'll be combined. So
Ask Mary McAlee, she
yeah,
knows the
that'll
story.
Yeah, that'll be a huge step for the GA out at home.
So your attendance last year was second biggest in the comp and grew the most out of everybody in the comp. The AFLW is obviously growing, and the AFL are interested in growing the game, as are the GAA back home. What do you think they get right over here that potentially we could learn from back home in how we grow our own national games from a lady standpoint?
I think when it's I suppose when it's a professional sport, it's a lot easier to get the crowds out, and then just access to TV times and stuff like that. There'd be a lot more broadcasted here. So yeah, I suppose, you know, it's really hard to, in that sense, compare when it's an amateur and a professional sport, I guess. But yeah, like, it's great to see so many out. Like, it's grown all the time, and I think that they've changed the times of the season as well. Might be better as well in terms of how many people we've got out. So before we used to play like January, February, March, and then it would roll into the men's season, whereas we're playing at the back end of their season. So there'll probably be viewers, you know, when the men's season is finished, they're, you know, eager to watch a few of the women's as well, and they know it's coming around. So I think that's definitely helped. I do think there could be more double headers in both AFL and at home. I think that would definitely grow the game. And I know when we were back at home and we played a couple of double headers with like Dublin and Galway, like, we had massive crowds of games, and like, you know, it was a family day out for people. And I think that would really entice the big crowd as well.
Do you think a double header, in terms of a double header between 4 teams playing in the same, say, code, or would it work where you did a double header of a ladies game and a men's game back home on the same day? Because that's something that they've done out here, obviously, is the seasons now don't run at the same time. So your season has its own set 12, 13 weeks or whatever it is, and then the men's season is running now.
Yes.
At home, the seasons are running pretty much alongside each other. So
You could
when
do
there's
it,
teams
yeah.
playing Saturday and Sunday, there's also men's games on Saturday and Sunday that are attracting potentially more eyes. Well, undoubtedly more eyes, and they're getting more coverage in the national media as a result. Is there a way that you could do double headers in those? Because I know I was listening to the GA Social recently, and they were saying that they were having games in Meath, and the Meath ladies were playing at one side of Meath on the same day as the Meath men's on the other side, and it was like, why are we not playing on the same pitch? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense.
Something like that, like, you know, it would make a lot more sense for them just to play in the same ground. But it would be great if it could come to that, and maybe with the amalgamation it will, and the fixtures will be a lot better, hopefully. And even girls who are doing dual sports, like playing camogie and football, they won't have to choose between one or the other. Hopefully that'll be a good bit better too. But yeah, as you said, hopefully it does come to a point where they can just play it as a double header, and not, you know, you don't have to make a decision whether you want to go to the women's game or the men's. You can just go to both, really. And that's ideally where it would be great, and I think you get a lot more support that way too.
You tell me if this is a ludicrous suggestion now, or if it potentially may work, or if there's any issues with it. Why don't we play many games in the GA on a Friday night, Thursday night, or a Monday night? Is it just because people have to go to work the next day, so they want to get a solid sleep? But if that's the argument, then why don't we play on a Friday? Is it because they may have to take a half day from work?
Yeah, good point. Probably, to be honest. And if people are up in Dublin maybe and travelling down to Mayo, will they get there on time? And then do they have to go back up to Dublin again on Thursday night to be at work on Friday morning? Maybe there's that sort of thing. But even Friday night games could be a runner. But again, it might be just that racing down the road, or maybe having to take a half day from work to be there.
But say it was Connacht Championship or something, and you knew you weren't going to have that far to travel, hopefully. It may work. Or a provincial championship even, like, I guess.
Yeah.
And as a result, the Friday night game, you play at a neutral venue. Although, knowing teams back home, nobody's going to want to give up home advantage, I suppose. But the goal should always be to grow the game, no? And that's what it seems is different over here. Is obviously everybody wants their own club to go well, but all of the decisions made on a national level are made with the growth of, or with the goal of growing the game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And it'd be great if it could come to that actually, and just, I think, even just try it, see if it works, and then if it doesn't, at least they've tried. But I think, something has to change anyways to keep growing the game, and hopefully it would be great to get to a point where, you have double headers, you have more exposure, I suppose, to the ladies' game, and again, more of a pathway for young girls to see that that they're getting the same amount of people at a game than a men's game, and it might never get to that, but it's something to strive for, and I think you may as well try it anyways and give it a go.
And you just said there earlier that there is a conscious effort being made to have more games in the season. Like, it does seem like you're probably playing half the games, if not just 1/3 of the games you play at home. Does it seem like there's more on the games, and then do you miss having that frequency of games at home, or is it just because the game is so intense out here?
Yeah,
You'd only get through 11 to 12 games anyway.
I think, we'd had 10 games last season, and this year they're pushing for 11, and then there's the finals if you get there as well. It's crazy when you think at home, like, you play so many games between the league, the championship and your club. It's nearly all year round, and then you come out here and your pre-season's 3 or 4 months long, and then there's pre-season as well, which is another 2 or 3 months, and then you've only 11 weeks of games potentially. It's crazy, but I think it is actually quite tough on the body, I suppose, to play a game every single weekend in a row, because it's a lot more physical. Like, it's you pull up a lot sore after a game here than you would at home, but it's class. I love the consistent games. Be class to have way more games. Like, to play every team in the league would be unreal, and I think that's obviously the goal essentially, and where they want to go to. But it's crazy to think that you only play 11 games and in a few finals, whereas at home you'd be probably fitting in 30.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I do miss that. You have 2 practice games, I suppose, in pre-season as well, and we might have a few, maybe an in-house game as well, but that'd be it.
You miss the games, and obviously you just touched on there, you go from playing county to club at home. If the club was still going by the time the season ended, would you float the idea to your management team out here to see if you could go home and finish off the season?
With
the club.
That'd be deadly, like. Be class. But no, it doesn't align at all. Like, it clashes with the season. So, like, we'd finish up just before Christmas, and then our club would be finished by then. So, ideally, be great. But just have to move the seasons.
And you just need the club to get to the All-Ireland semi-finals, finals.
Come back for it then.
Yeah, pretty much. No pressure, girls.
No pressure, girls.
If you were an athlete that came out here from GAA and you don't really like training, is it unlikely that you're going to succeed? Because you've only got 11 games, max 12 games. Like, it sounds like you absolutely love and thrive in the training, in the pre-season and the pre-season. If you're just somebody that likes to play games and then do the bare minimum in training to get by, very unlikely to succeed, it seems.
Yeah, you get caught out pretty easily. I think, you have access to all these resources, facilities, everything, but it's up to you to apply yourself, I guess. You have to, be willing to work hard. And I think especially if you're coming over and you've no clue the game, you definitely have to even work harder as well and ask those questions and put in the extra hours and do the extra skills, and watch loads of vision, and you have to fully, like, apply yourself. So I suppose if you don't love that aspect of it, I love training, I love finding out more about the game, and I think you grow more love for the game as the years go by, because you understand what the AFL means to the Australians out here as well. So it's cool, and it is a huge part of their life, like, but you have to be willing to put in the work. Yeah, definitely. And I think, as they say, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. So you definitely have to put in the hard work.
So be under no illusions coming out that it's going to be difficult, but you're only going to succeed if you go through probably the first couple of years figuring out what it is you are about as an athlete out here, because obviously you know what you are about as a footballer back home, but then you come out here and you're a newbie straight away. You don't even know what position you're going to play, probably.
Yeah, and it's daunting. It definitely is. Like, I remember coming out and I was like, how am I ever going to get onto this team? What are they doing? And then, like, you get your first tackle and you get mauled to the ground, like, But it's not until you just keep practicing, I suppose. It's tough, like, especially the first year you come out, but it's so enjoyable. Like, you have access to everything. Like, it's a professional environment. It's great, but yeah, it is definitely daunting. You just have to put in that work, and I suppose if you don't know your position, like, you could be thrown around in so many different positions, and I think that might be tough in your first year as well. But once you kind of nail down a position or one or two positions, just kind of keep working at that and asking the questions to your coaches.
It's probably good to play in multiple positions though initially, just to actually understand what everybody's trying to do.
Yeah,
you've just signed a multiple year contract extension last year.
Just gone there now.
So you obviously see a future out here for yourself. Do you have any potential goals and ambitions other than to go and get a Premiership medal?
I obviously love playing with the Crows. They're incredible people and such a good environment to be in. So yeah, hopefully that all goes well. I think to potentially go down the route with maybe working with athletes or working with teams. Just love the whole, like, I don't know, getting inside someone's mind and figuring out about the individual and what drives them. And we're all so different, but like what makes the person tick, and having more of a balanced approach, I think, around life as well, because so easily something can go wrong in sport, and like your whole focus can just be on sport, especially as an athlete. And like even with the injury for me with the Crows, like I found that so tough because my only focus was football, and it was my first time playing away from Grace. I was away from family. Dara didn't come out for 5 months, so I felt very kind of alone, if you get me. So I think I learned through that you need to have a more balanced approach to life, and I'd love to be able to work with the kind of athletes to build that balance around sport and to have different focuses. And it's not the end of the world. I know it feels like it's your job and you're there to just play football, and it can be gone so quickly, like, as well, and you're watching everyone train. But to have a focus outside of football, I think, is just so important, and I'd love to be able to work with teams or with athletes around that. Yeah.
It sounds like you wouldn't hold that perspective now though, unless you had went through the injury that you did.
Yeah.
And not had anyone out here. So in a way, if you do end up going down that route, will you be kind of grateful for having gone through that experience because you want to prevent others from going through that experience themselves?
Yeah, I suppose a little bit too. Yeah, I think you learn through experience as well. And, like I look at, new girls starting off now, like even Paris and Julie, and it's like, you really want to get around them and make sure they're really enjoying it. And like Amy Boyle-Carr is coming out soon, and you want to make sure that these young people are really enjoying the experience too, and making the most out of the move. But yeah, you just want the best for everyone. And I think when you see people who are in a similar boat, or Irish people that are coming over, especially, I suppose we might lack that balance a bit more because we're away from family and we're away from friends from home. But the more time you're out here, you create more of a balance around football. And it's really important to find your people and find your network, and build a balance around football.
Everybody coming out here, and everybody that's planning on coming out here, or everybody living at home looking at people out here, think it's a magic land where it's just sun and sea and it's amazing all the time. Is that the hardest aspect of it, being away from your friends and family? And then obviously if you are an athlete, going through those injuries and not having people that you can lean on. And how have you gone about changing that, other than they're obviously coming out?
Yeah. It's class. Like, the lifestyle is great here. And I think, the lifestyle, like having sun, having, like, it all helps, like training in a good environment, good people, facilities, everything. But your people are so important too. And I think, I was so close to Grace, didn't probably even realise that we bounced so much things off each other. And obviously, having Dara out here is incredible. But now that I've got to, like, know Adelaide, such a good club, like they would do anything for you, and they'd really care for you as a person as well as the athlete. But yeah, then like they know that I love being around Irish people. So for example, if we have a game in Melbourne, I'll stay an extra night with my sister when we're there, and they're like, come up to Sydney, enjoy your time, with some of your Irish friends, like, and then come back, you'll be fully refreshed. They have a really good balance around all of that, and they realise I'm away from home. So I think that's the way I kind of refresh myself and get that balance. And then just going for swims, like, and go down to the beach, going for coffees with friends, all that, like, it's a great switch off from football too.
What is it about being around Irish people that puts you at ease more so than being around other people, I guess?
Yeah, it's funny. It's very like you come the other side of the world and you're like, we're the Irish people. Yeah, like, they're going through the same thing. Like, Mark Keane from Cork, he's playing with the Crows as well, and like it's great having him out there as well, and Cueva, he's doing incredible as well. He's just adapted to the game so well. I think it's just we're all very similar. Yeah, you'd find Irish everywhere.
Big heads all over to Australia to live together and chat about nothing other than Ireland. That's very different to home, isn't it? Yeah. We'll move on to quickfire questions to finish. First one is proudest achievement to date.
It's funny, I actually was reflecting on this during the week when you were asking me. Probably was making the All-Australian team, I suppose, this year. Like as a personal achievement. I think I probably didn't really think about it much at the time because we'd lost against Melbourne or North Melbourne the night before. But yeah, it wasn't until I probably went home at Christmas and I was like, oh, that was actually, it wasn't a bad year. There was highs and lows. But yeah, I was just, I suppose, happy to come away with that after the injury the year before, I suppose. So yeah, that'd probably be my proudest. I think
favourite
really
athlete. Huh?
It's really weird to say that out loud.
I know. Well, when I asked you your 2 to 3 strengths, you nearly fell out of the chair laughing like you're so uncomfortable. But look, we're out here to grow and get more comfortable, I guess. So it's not a bad thing to be able to talk about things you're proud of and things that you're good at. Because that's going to help you in the next couple of years to go, and I wouldn't just say focus on the outcome goal, but be the best player that you can be and enjoy your time here as much as you can as well. Favourite athlete of all time?
Going to say, well, so many. Okay, I'm going to pick one of my teammates first. Chelsea Randall. She's an incredible leader, incredible person, and she's just mad as well at the same time. But she just really looks out for everyone, but is a class footballer. She's actually a coach of the men's programme as well, and just great mindset. She's class. And then I'm going to pick an Irish athlete then as well. I'm going to say Katie McCabe. Just think she's unreal. I played soccer with her actually for a year, like under 15 Irish team years ago. And I just think since then she's just, she's incredible. I love her mindset and she's not afraid of anything. Like,
she's definitely not afraid of letting the referee know what's what or any opponents as well. But we absolutely love her for it. Next one is a big one. What's the biggest thing you've learned in the last 12 months?
I think you can achieve anything if you put your mind to it. Don't be afraid of failure and just keep working.
And what would you tell your 18-year-old self? If not that,
probably
or
that,
if
yeah.
that,
yeah. Just don't be afraid to myself, I think. Yeah, completely believe in yourself and be persistent.
Awesome. Thanks a million for coming on, Niamh.
Thanks very much and cheers for having me.